People say time changes everything, but does it really? Some wounds never heal, especially when betrayal cuts deep. Years ago, Jonathan Parker and Naomi Brooks were inseparable in college. He was the golden boy from a wealthy family. She was the brilliant, ambitious young woman who believed in him when no one else did. They dreamed of building a future together. But that dream ended when Jonathan, pressured by his elitist family, abandoned Naomi without a word. No closure, no explanation. Just an engagement ring returned in a velvet box. Now, years later, Naomi is a self-made business mogul, a woman of power and influence. She has rebuilt herself from the ashes of heartbreak until she receives an invitation that threatens to reopen old wounds. Jonathan is getting married, and he personally invites Naomi to witness his happiness. Why? Because he wants to humiliate her, show her that he upgraded to a wealthier, more socially acceptable bride. But Jonathan has no idea who Naomi has become. She accepts the invitation, but not for the reasons he expects. What unfolds at the wedding will shock everyone, especially Jonathan. Have you ever been in a situation where someone from your past tried to put you down, but you got the last laugh? Drop your thoughts in the comments while we dive into the story. Years ago, Jonathan and Naomi were inseparable. The air between them buzzed with possibility, a quiet electricity that seemed to hum through every late-night study session, every stolen glance across a crowded lecture hall. Back then, the world felt like it belonged to them. Jonathan, with his sharp jawline and easy charm, had a way of making promises that felt like they could bend time itself. Naomi, brilliant and bold, matched him step for step, her laughter a melody that could pull him out of any storm. They were young, ambitious, and convinced that love could outlast anything. Parents' disapproval, societal expectations, the weight of the future pressing down on them. In the library one humid afternoon, surrounded by stacks of books and the faint hum of a struggling air conditioner, Jonathan leaned close, his voice low but fierce. He told her she was his future, that nothing else mattered. Naomi, her eyes sparkling with that mix of defiance and hope, brushed it off with a laugh, telling him to focus on their project instead of dreaming too loud. The moment lingered, heavy with unspoken vows, a fragile thread tying them together. But threads break. Time has a way of twisting even the strongest bonds into something unrecognizable. That memory, once so vivid, now sits like a jagged shard in Naomi's mind, cutting deeper the more she lets herself remember. Because it didn't last. The end came fast, brutal, and without warning. She'd been so sure of him, sure enough to dress up in her favorite red dress, the one that hugged her curves just right, and head to that upscale restaurant with her heart pounding in her chest. She'd seen the signs. The way he'd been fidgeting lately, the nervous smiles, the velvet box he'd tried to hide in his jacket pocket. She thought it was a proposal. She'd walked in, heels clicking against the polished floor, her mind racing with visions of a ring, a promise, a life. Instead, she found an empty table. No Jonathan, just that box, sitting there like a cruel joke, and a note tucked beside it. His handwriting, usually so confident, looked shaky, rushed. 2 sentences. "It's over. I can't do this." That was it. No explanation, no goodbye. Just those words, cold and final, slicing through her like a blade. She tried to reach him. Phone calls went straight to voicemail, his voice on the recording mocking her with its familiarity. Texts piled up unanswered, each one a plea, then a demand, then a scream into the void. She drove to his place, her hands trembling on the wheel, only to be stopped at the gate by a security guard who wouldn't even look her in the eye. "He's not here," the man said, his tone flat, rehearsed. She didn't believe it. She could feel Jonathan watching from somewhere behind those walls, hiding, letting her fall apart while he stayed safe. That night, she sat in her car outside his house for hours, the rain streaking down the windshield like tears she refused to shed. When she finally drove away, something inside her shifted. The girl who'd laughed in the library, who'd believed in forever, was gone. In her place was someone harder, sharper, forged in the fire of that betrayal. Fast forward to today, and Naomi is a force. The boardroom is her kingdom, a sleek glass-walled space high above the city, where she commands respect with every measured word. She's a CEO now, the kind of woman who closes multi-million-dollar deals before breakfast and leaves her competitors scrambling to keep up. Her suit is tailored to perfection, her presence undeniable. She's mid-sentence, negotiating terms with a room full of executives who hang on her every syllable when her assistant slips in. The deal is wrapping up. Numbers are finalized, hands are shaking, power is shifting in her favor. She's about to dismiss the group when her assistant, a wiry young woman named Kyla, hesitates by her side. There's an envelope in her hand, cream-colored and elegant, the kind that screams money and intention. Naomi takes it without breaking her stride, slicing it open with a letter opener as she fires off final instructions. I want this contract on my desk by morning, no excuses. The room empties and she glances down at the card inside. It's an invitation. Gold-embossed, heavy cardstock, the kind of thing you frame if you're sentimental. Jonathan's name leaps off the page first, paired with someone else's. Clara, a name she doesn't know and doesn't care to. His wedding. The date is weeks away, the location a sprawling estate she vaguely remembers him mentioning once, back when they'd dreamed aloud about their own future. For a moment, she's still, her fingers tightening around the edges of the paper. Kyla watches her, shifting her weight, clearly unsure whether to speak. You're not actually considering going? Are you? She finally asks, her voice laced with disbelief. Naomi doesn't answer right away. She sets the invitation down, leans back in her chair, and lets the silence stretch. Her mind is racing, but her face gives nothing away. She thinks about that night in the rain, the note, the way he'd cut her out of his life like she was nothing. And now this. An invitation, dripping with arrogance as if he assumes she's still broken, still pining, still small enough to be summoned for his amusement. She could toss it in the shredder and move on. She should. Her life is full now. Meetings, mergers, a penthouse with a view that could make anyone jealous. She's built something out of the ashes he left behind, and he doesn't deserve a second of her time. But there's something else tugging at her, a flicker of curiosity, maybe even defiance. What does he want? To flaunt his new life in her face? To prove he's won? The thought lights a spark in her, one that grows into a slow, steady burn. She looks up at Kyla, her lips curving into a smirk that's equal parts dangerous and determined. Oh, I wouldn't miss it for the world, she says, her voice smooth as silk, sharp as steel. Kyla blinks, caught off guard, but Naomi's already turning the invitation over in her hands, studying it like a battle plan. The decision settles over her like a storm cloud rolling in. Quiet at first, but heavy with promise. She doesn't know what Jonathan's playing at, but she knows this. He's underestimated her. He thinks she's the same girl he left crying in the rain, fragile and disposable. He has no idea who she's become. The past floods back in fragments as she sits there. Nights they'd spent planning a future he threw away. Promises he broke without a backward glance. The way he'd made her feel invincible only to shatter her completely. Each memory stokes the fire inside her, feeding a resolve that's been years in the making. She's not going to his wedding to wallow or beg. She's going to walk in with her head high, her power undeniable, and let him see what he lost. Let him choke on it. But there's more to it than that. The invitation feels like a challenge, a taunt, and Naomi's never been one to back down. Questions swirl in her mind, each one a thread she can't quite grasp. Why now? Why her? What's he hiding behind this perfect little celebration? She leans forward, elbows on her desk, the city skyline sprawling out beyond the glass. Her reflection stares back at her, fierce and unyielding. She doesn't have answers yet, but she will. She'll go, she'll watch, and she'll turn whatever game he's playing back on him. The thought sends a thrill through her, a mix of anticipation and something sharper, something that tastes like revenge. The clock ticks on, the day bleeds into night, and Naomi sits there, plotting, waiting, a queen on her throne deciding how to strike. One thing's certain, when she steps into that wedding, Jonathan's world is going to shift, and he won't see it coming. The day of the wedding arrives like a storm breaking over a calm sea, all beauty and chaos wrapped into one. The venue is a sprawling estate, the kind of place that reeks of old money and new ambition. Acres of manicured lawns, marble columns gleaming under the late afternoon sun, chandeliers dripping with crystals that catch the light and throw it back in dazzling patterns. Guests mill about, their voices a low hum of excitement and champagne-fueled gossip, their designer suits and gowns rustling as they move. The air is thick with expectation, a carefully curated perfection that feels almost too pristine, too deliberate. Jonathan stands near the altar, impeccable in his tailored tuxedo, his posture radiating confidence. Beside him is Vanessa, his fiancée, a vision in white lace, her smile practiced and radiant. Everything is in place. The flowers, the music, the vows, they've planned it all down to the last detail. He's the king of this moment, or so he believes, his chest puffed with the certainty that today will cement his triumph. But the ground beneath him is already shifting, and he doesn't even know it. Then she arrives. Naomi steps out of a sleek black car, and the world slows for a heartbeat. Her dress is a masterpiece, deep crimson, hugging her frame like it was poured over her, the fabric catching the light with every step. It's bold, unapologetic, a statement that screams power before she even opens her mouth. Heads turn. Whispers ripple through the crowd, a wave of curiosity and awe that follows her as she moves toward the entrance. She doesn't rush, doesn't falter. Her heels strike the stone pathway with a rhythm that's almost hypnotic, each step a declaration. The guests don't know who she is, not yet, but they feel it. This woman is someone. Vanessa notices first, her eyes narrowing as she leans closer to Jonathan, her voice a hushed thread of unease. "Who is she?" she asks, her fingers tightening around the stem of her champagne flute. Jonathan's smile flickers just for a second before he forces it back into place. "An old acquaintance," he says, the words smooth but strained, like he's swallowing something bitter. He turns away too quickly, pretending to adjust his cufflinks, but his hands betray him. They're trembling ever so slightly. Naomi feels his eyes on her as she crosses the threshold into the main hall. She doesn't look at him, not yet. She doesn't need to. She can sense the weight of his gaze, the way it lingers and then darts away like a child caught staring. It's exactly what she expected, his unease, his arrogance fraying at the edges. She moves through the crowd with the grace of a predator, her presence parting the sea of guests without effort. People step aside, drawn in by her aura, murmuring to each other in tones of admiration and speculation. She catches fragments of their words, stunning, confident, mysterious, but she doesn't let it distract her. Her focus is singular, a blade honed over years of waiting for this moment. She's here to play his game, yes, but on her terms. The invitation sits in her clutch, a silent reminder of why she came, and every step she takes is a step closer to turning his plan against him. Across the room, Jonathan's composure is cracking. He'd rehearsed this in his mind 100 times. Naomi showing up, meek and out of place, a shadow of the girl he'd left behind. He'd pictured her crumbling under the weight of his success, her eyes wide with regret as she saw Vanessa on his arm, the life he'd built without her. It was supposed to be a quiet victory, a final twist of the knife. But this isn't the Naomi he remembers. She's not shrinking, she's commanding, and it's throwing him off balance. He steals another glance, his throat tightening as she accepts a glass of champagne from a waiter, her movements effortless, regal. Vanessa's still watching her too, her smile growing tighter, her questions piling up behind her eyes. "An acquaintance?" she repeats, her tone sharper now, probing. Jonathan waves it off with a laugh that doesn't quite land. "Just someone from college, ancient history." But the lie hangs heavy between them, and Vanessa's not buying it. She doesn't push, not yet, but the seed of doubt is planted and it's already taking root. Rewind a few days and the truth of Jonathan's intentions comes into focus. His office is all glass and steel, a monument to his climb up the corporate ladder. He's leaning back in his chair, feet propped on the desk, a tumbler of whiskey in his hand. His best man, Marcus, sits across from him, a stack of wedding RSVPs between them. The conversation's casual at first, catering details, bachelor party plans, until Marcus spots Naomi's name on the guest list. He raises an eyebrow, half amused, half incredulous. "You really invited your ex?" he asks, leaning forward. Jonathan grins, a flash of teeth that's all bravado. "Why not?" "I want her to see what she lost. She'll never be in our league." There's a cruelty in his voice, a glee that's been simmering since he mailed that invitation. He imagines her standing there, awkward and outclassed, surrounded by his world of wealth and influence. It's a power play, pure and simple, a chance to rewrite their history with him as the winner. Marcus laughs, shaking his head. "You're cold, man. Hope she doesn't take it too hard." Jonathan shrugs, sipping his drink. "She'll survive or she won't. Either way, it's not my problem." What he doesn't know, what he couldn't possibly know, is that Naomi's already ahead of him. She's not just surviving, she's thriving. The company he's been chasing for months, the one his firm's been scrambling to lock down a deal with? She owns it. Not outright, not in a way that's splashed across headlines, but through a web of holdings and subsidiaries she's carefully built over the years. It's her empire, quiet and ironclad, and Jonathan's been begging at her gates without even realizing it. The irony is delicious, and she's been savoring it since the moment she RSVP'd. She'd seen his firm's proposals cross her desk, his name buried in the fine print, and she'd let the negotiations drag on, stringing him along, keeping him hungry. Now, standing in his wedding, she's not just a guest, she's a player, holding cards he doesn't even know exist. Back at the reception, the evening unfolds in a blur of toasts and laughter, but the undercurrent of tension is growing. Naomi mingles effortlessly, charming the guests with stories of her travels, her business ventures, her life. She doesn't mention Jonathan, not once, but her every word feels like a subtle jab, a reminder of her ascent. People gravitate toward her, drawn by her warmth and her quiet strength, and it's driving Jonathan crazy. He's trying to focus on Vanessa on the dance floor, on the perfect script of his day, but his eyes keep finding Naomi. She's talking to a group of investors now, men his firm's been courting for weeks, and they're hanging on her every word. He catches a snippet of their conversation, something about a merger, a deal, and his stomach twists. What does she know? What's she doing here, really? The questions gnaw at him, eroding his confidence piece by piece. Vanessa's not oblivious either. She's watching Naomi too, her smile fading as the night wears on. She pulls Jonathan aside during a quiet moment, her voice low but insistent. "You need to tell me who she is. Now." He brushes it off again, more forcefully this time. "I told you she's nobody. Just drop it." But Vanessa's not convinced. She's seen the way he tenses every time Naomi moves closer, the way his laughter sounds forced. She's starting to wonder what he's hiding, and the suspicion is a splinter under her skin, sharp and persistent. She lets it go for now, but her eyes stay on Naomi, tracking her like a hawk. Naomi, meanwhile, is in her element. She's not here to disrupt, not yet. She's here to observe, to let Jonathan stew in his own discomfort. She can feel his uncertainty radiating across the room, and it fuels her. She knows he invited her to gloat, to rub his happiness in her face, but he's the one unraveling now. Every time their eyes meet, she holds his gaze just long enough to make him flinch, then looks away, leaving him dangling. It's a dance, slow and deliberate, and she's leading. But there's more at play here than she's letting on. She's overheard whispers among the guests, rumors about Jonathan's business, his firm's shaky finances, a deal that's teetering on the edge of collapse. It's the same deal she's been toying with, the one she could crush with a single phone call. The power sits heavy in her hands, and she's not sure yet how she'll use it. Not sure, or maybe not ready to admit. The night stretches on, the music swelling, the crowd growing looser with wine and celebration. Jonathan's forced himself to relax, convincing himself he's overreacting. She's just here to save face, he tells himself, She'll leave, and that'll be the end of it. He's mid-laugh, mid-story, when Naomi steps onto the dance floor, alone. The room quiets just for a moment, as she moves, fluid, confident, a vision in red against the sea of muted tones. She doesn't need a partner, she's enough on her own. The guests watch, mesmerized, and Jonathan's laugh dies in his throat. Vanessa's hand tightens on his arm, her nails digging in. An acquaintance, huh? She mutters, her voice acid. He doesn't answer. He can't. Because Naomi's not just dancing, she's rewriting the night, stealing the spotlight he thought was his. Then it happens. A waiter approaches her, discreetly handing her a folded note. She reads it, her expression unreadable, and slips it into her clutch. Jonathan catches the exchange, his pulse spiking. Who's it from? What does it say? He's too far to ask, too tangled in his own web to move. Naomi glances his way just once and smiles, a small, knowing curve of her lips that sends a chill through him. She knows something big, and as the music crescendos, as the guests erupt into applause for her, he realizes he's not in control anymore. The setup he planned, the humiliation he craved, it's slipping through his fingers. The night's not over, and the real shock is still coming. He can feel it, a storm gathering just out of sight, and all he can do is wait. The reception dinner is in full swing, a lavish affair that sprawls across the estate's grand dining hall. Crystal glasses clink, silverware gleams under the warm glow of chandeliers, and the murmur of conversation fills the air like a living thing. The guests, a mix of high society types and Jonathan's carefully curated inner circle, settle into their seats, their faces flushed with wine and anticipation. The table settings are flawless. White linens, gold-rimmed plates, centerpieces bursting with roses that cost more than most people's rent. Jonathan sits at the head of the room, Vanessa at his side, both of them glowing with the kind of practiced ease that comes from knowing all eyes are on you. He's in his element now, the earlier unease buried beneath layers of charm and bravado. The night's gone off without a hitch. Vows exchanged, dances danced, photos snapped for the society pages. He's ready to seal it with a toast, a final flourish to cap his perfect day. He picks up his glass, the faint clink of his spoon against it cutting through the chatter, and stands, his posture all confidence and control. Across the room, Naomi watches him. She's seated near the back, her crimson dress a stark contrast to the muted tones around her, her presence a quiet pulse that's been building all night. She's been biding her time, letting the evening unfold, letting Jonathan think he's won. The note from earlier still sits in her clutch, its contents a secret she's kept close, but her face gives nothing away. She sips her champagne, her movements deliberate, her eyes locked on him as he clears his throat. The room quiets, heads turning toward the groom, and a smirk tugs at his lips. He glances her way, just a flicker, a taunt, and she knows what's coming. He's going to use this moment to twist the knife, to remind her of her place. She sets her glass down, her fingers steady, and waits. "Ladies and gentlemen," Jonathan begins, his voice smooth and commanding, "thank you all for being here to celebrate this incredible day. Vanessa and I..." He pauses, resting a hand on her shoulder, and she beams up at him. "We're beyond grateful for your love, your support, and, let's be honest, your excellent taste in wedding gifts." Laughter ripples through the crowd, light and obliging. He's good at this, always has been. Working a room, making people feel like they're in on the joke. But tonight's about more than just us. It's about new beginnings, about building something strong, something lasting. And I'd be remiss if I didn't acknowledge everyone who's helped me get here, even those who doubted me along the way. His eyes slide to Naomi again, sharper this time, and the smirk grows. Sometimes people think they know your limits. They think they can define you, but tonight proves them wrong. The dig lands, subtle but pointed, and a few guests shift uncomfortably, sensing the undercurrent. Vanessa's smile tightens, her gaze darting between Jonathan and Naomi, but she says nothing. He's about to continue, raising his glass higher when a chair scrapes against the floor. The sound cuts through the room, sharp and unexpected, and every head turns. Naomi's standing now, her movements fluid, unhurried, as if she's been waiting for this exact beat. She picks up her own glass, the crystal catching the light, and steps forward. Before the groom speaks anymore, she says, her voice clear and steady, "I'd like to say something." The words hang there, bold and unapologetic, and the air shifts. Jonathan's smirk falters, annoyance flashing across his face. "Naomi," he says, his tone clipped. "This isn't the time." "Oh, I think it is," she cuts in, her smile small but lethal. She doesn't wait for permission, doesn't flinch under the weight of his stare. The room falls silent, 100 pairs of eyes locked on her, curiosity and tension coiling together. She takes a step closer, her heels clicking against the hardwood, and lifts her glass slightly. "Jonathan once told me I'd never make it without him," she says, her voice carrying effortlessly, each syllable deliberate. "Years ago, back when we were young and he thought he held all the cards, he said I'd never amount to anything, that I needed him to survive. Funny how life works, isn't it?" She pauses, letting the words settle, letting the guests lean in. Jonathan's jaw tightens, his knuckles whitening around his glass, but he doesn't speak. "Not yet." "I thought about that a lot," Naomi continues, her tone conversational but edged with steel. "Especially when I was building my company from the ground up, brick by brick, deal by deal, while he was busy writing me off. And here's the thing, he didn't just underestimate me, he miscalculated entirely." She turns slightly, her gaze sweeping the room, and then lands it square on Jonathan. "Because I ended up owning the company that now controls his biggest account." The revelation drops like a bomb, and the room erupts. Gasps, murmurs, a choked cough from Jonathan's father as his drink catches in his throat. Vanessa's head snaps toward Jonathan, her eyes wide, but Naomi's not done. She shifts her focus to the bride, her smile softening, almost pitying. "Congratulations, dear," she says, her voice dripping with quiet venom. "You've just married a man who's about to lose everything." Chaos breaks loose. The guests buzz, their whispers turning into a roar, forks clattering against plates as people lean toward each other, piecing together the implications. Jonathan's father, a stern man with a face carved from years of boardroom battles, slams his glass down and turns on his son. "What the hell is she talking about?" he demands, his voice rough with disbelief. Jonathan stammers, his charm evaporating. She's exaggerating, Dad. It's not..." But Naomi cuts him off again, her presence towering over his floundering. "Am I?" she asks, arching an eyebrow. "Your firm's been chasing a contract with Horizon Ventures for months. Desperate for it, really. Begging even. Did you ever bother to check who owns them? Or were you too busy planning your little victory lap?" Jonathan freezes, his mind racing to catch up. Horizon Ventures, the deal that's been his lifeline, the one his firm's pinned its future on. He'd never dug deep enough and never questioned the layers of ownership, assuming it was just another faceless corporation. Now the truth slams into him like a freight train. "You're lying," he says, but his voice cracks, betraying him. Naomi tilts her head, almost amused. "Am I? Check the paperwork. Call your lawyers. Or better yet, ask your CFO why he's been sweating bullets all week." She takes a sip of her champagne, casual as ever while the room spins around her. Vanessa's on her feet now, her hands trembling. "Jonathan," she says, her voice low and urgent. "What's going on?" "Tell me she's wrong." He can't. He opens his mouth, but nothing comes out. His father's glaring at him, Vanessa's staring at him, and the guests are watching like vultures circling a kill. Naomi doesn't relent. "I could have tanked your deal months ago," she says, her tone shifting to something colder, more deliberate. "Could have pulled the plug and watched your firm bleed out, but I didn't. I waited. I wanted you to feel this, right here, right now, on your big day. She steps closer, her voice dropping to a near whisper, but it carries all the same. You invited me here to rub your life in my face, so I thought I'd return the favor. The weight of her words sinks in, and Jonathan's world starts to fracture. He'd planned this night to perfection, every detail a brick in the wall of his triumph, and now it's crumbling. His father's on his phone now, barking orders at someone, probably the CFO, his face red with fury. Vanessa's pulling at Jonathan's arm, her voice rising. Is this true? Did you know about this? He shakes his head, frantic. No, I didn't. But the lie's too thin, and she's not buying it. She steps back, her eyes glistening with tears and rage, and the guests are eating it up, their whispers turning into a feeding frenzy. Naomi stands there, calm and untouchable, watching it all unfold like a conductor savoring the climax of her symphony. But she's not finished. She sets her glass down, the faint clink a punctuation mark, and turns to the crowd. I didn't come here to ruin a wedding, she says, her voice softening, almost reflective. I came because I was invited, because Jonathan thought he could use me as a prop in his little story. But I'm not a footnote anymore. I'm the one writing the ending. She pauses, letting that sink in, then looks at Jonathan one last time. You should have left me alone, she says, quiet but piercing. Enjoy your night. With that, she turns and walks away, her dress trailing behind her like a banner of victory, leaving the room in stunned silence. The aftermath is a whirlwind. Jonathan's father storms over, his voice booming. You've tanked us, you idiot! Do you have any idea what this means? Jonathan's scrambling, trying to explain, but the words won't come. Vanessa's crying now, her perfect day shattered, and she rounds on him. You lied to me, she says, her voice breaking. You brought her here. Why? What were you thinking? He reaches for her, desperate. Vanessa, listen, I didn't know. She's bluffing, she can't. But she pulls away, shaking her head. Don't touch me, I need air. She walks off, leaving him stranded, the guests watching like it's a live show. Naomi's outside now, the cool night air brushing against her skin as she heads for her car. She feels lighter, freer, the weight of years lifting with every step. She'd planned this moment, rehearsed it in her mind, but living it is something else, electric, exhilarating. Her driver's waiting, the engine humming, but she pauses, pulling the note from her clutch. She reads it again, her lips curving into a faint smile. It's from one of Jonathan's investors, a cryptic offer. Meet me tomorrow. We need to talk about his future. And yours. She slips it back inside, her mind already turning. What does it mean? A lifeline for Jonathan, or another move in her game? She doesn't know yet, but she will. She always does. Back inside, the chaos is spiraling. Jonathan's father's on a call, shouting about damage control, while Vanessa's disappeared into the crowd, her white dress a ghost among the guests. Jonathan sinks into a chair, his tuxedo rumpled, his face pale. He'd wanted to humiliate Naomi, to prove he'd moved on, but she's turned it all upside down. His firm's on the brink, his marriage is cracking, and he's got no one to blame but himself. The guests are still buzzing, some slipping out to spread the story, others lingering to watch the fallout. It's a mess, a glorious, catastrophic mess, and he's at the center of it. Naomi's car pulls away, the estate shrinking in the rearview mirror. She leans back, closing her eyes, savoring the quiet. She's won this round, decisively, devastatingly, but something tells her it's not over. That note, those whispers about Jonathan's finances, the look in Vanessa's eyes. There's more coming, a storm she can feel building on the horizon. She's ready for it, though. She's always ready. And as the car speeds into the night, one question lingers, sharp and unanswered. What's her next move? Because whatever it is, it's going to change everything. Again. The morning after the wedding dawns gray and heavy, the sky a bruised expanse that mirrors the storm brewing in Jonathan's world. He's barely slept, his tuxedo swapped for a wrinkled dress shirt and slacks, his eyes bloodshot from a night of pacing and bourbon. The drive to his office is a blur, his hands gripping the wheel so tight his knuckles ache. He'd spent hours replaying Naomi's toast, her words looping in his mind like a taunt he can't escape. The fallout's already begun. Texts from his CFO about panicked investors, voicemails from his father demanding answers, a cryptic silence from Vanessa that cuts deeper than any argument. He'd built his life on control, on winning, and now it's slipping through his fingers like sand. By the time he storms into his office, the sleek glass and steel space feels less like a kingdom and more like a cage. His father's already there, pacing near the window, his face a mask of fury. "You screwed us," his father snaps the moment Jonathan steps inside, his voice a low growl that reverberates off the walls. He's an imposing man, broad-shouldered and silver-haired, the kind of presence that's intimidated Jonathan since he was a kid. "Do you have any idea what you've done?" Jonathan slams the door behind him, his own anger flaring. "Me? You're blaming me for this? She's the one who—" His father cuts him off, jabbing a finger in his direction. "Don't you dare! You invited her, you arrogant fool! You thought you could play games, and now the firm's bleeding out because of it." He turns to the desk, snatching up a stack of papers, financial reports, emails, projections, and throws them down. Horizon Ventures pulled out at midnight. Our biggest account gone. Investors are jumping ship, and the board's calling an emergency meeting. This is on you. Jonathan's chest tightens, his breath coming fast. "She set me up," he says, his voice rising, sharp with desperation. "She planned this, Dad. She's been sitting on that company, waiting to gut me. You can't pin this on me when she's the one pulling strings." His father stops pacing, turning to face him with a look that's equal parts disgust and disbelief. "And whose fault is it that you didn't know? You're the one who's supposed to run this place, Jonathan. You're the one who's been chasing that deal like a dog with a bone, and you didn't even check who you were dealing with. She didn't set you up. You handed her the ammunition." The words land like a punch, and Jonathan staggers back, his hands raking through his hair. He wants to argue, to scream, but the truth is sinking in, cold and unyielding. He'd underestimated her, again, and it's cost him everything. Across town, Naomi's morning is a stark contrast. Her penthouse office is a sanctuary of power, floor-to-ceiling windows framing the city skyline, a desk of polished oak, walls lined with awards and framed articles charting her rise. She's in a tailored blazer and skirt, her movements calm and precise as she sips her coffee, reviewing a tablet full of updates. Her team's buzzing around her, fielding calls and emails, but she's an island of composure amid the chaos. The Horizon deal's collapse is already making waves, headlines popping up, competitors circling Jonathan's firm like sharks smelling blood. She'd made the call last night after leaving the wedding, a single word to her COO, "Pull it." That was all it took. Now she's watching the dominoes fall, her expression unreadable but her mind alive with calculation. The note from the investor sits on her desk, a folded square of paper she hasn't acted on yet. She's not sure what it means, ally or trap, but she'll find out soon enough. Her assistant Kyla steps in, her tablet glowing with notifications. "They're imploding over there," she says, her voice tinged with awe. Social media's on fire. People are saying Jonathan's toast was the flop of the century, and Vanessa's MIA. Oh, and his father just chewed him out in front of half the staff. It's a circus. Naomi nods, setting her coffee down. "Good, let them scramble. Keeps them distracted." Kyla hesitates, then adds, "He's on his way here." "Jonathan." "Security just buzzed. He's in the lobby, demanding to see you." Naomi's lips curve into a faint smile, not surprised. "Let him up," she says, leaning back in her chair. "I've got time." Minutes later, the elevator doors slide open, and Jonathan barrels in, his tie loose, his face a storm of rage and panic. He doesn't knock, doesn't wait, just storms past Kyla and into Naomi's office, his voice booming. "You set me up," he shouts, slamming his hands on her desk. Papers scatter, but Naomi doesn't flinch. She looks up at him, her gaze cool and steady, and sets her tablet aside. "No, Jonathan," she says, her tone smooth as glass. "You set yourself up when you underestimated me." He stares at her, breathing hard, his fists clenching. "You think this is funny? You tanked my firm, my life, everything I've built because of some petty grudge?" She tilts her head, considering him. Petty? Number, this isn't about grudges. This is about consequences. You invited me to your wedding to rub my nose in it. You thought I'd just take it, but I don't bend anymore. Not for you, not for anyone. He steps back, running a hand over his face, his anger giving way to something rawer. "You didn't have to do this," he says, his voice dropping. "You could have walked away, let it go. Why destroy me?" Naomi stands now, her presence filling the room as she moves around the desk. "Because you didn't just break my heart, Jonathan. You tried to break me. You left me with nothing, no explanation, no closure, and you thought I'd stay down. I didn't. I built something stronger than you could ever dream of. And when you pulled me back into your game, I played to win." Her words hang there, heavy and final. And for a moment, he's speechless, the weight of her strength pressing down on him. The silence stretches, thick with unspoken history, until his father's voice crackles through the phone on his desk. "Jonathan, get your ass back here, now!" It barks, loud enough for Naomi to hear. He flinches, but she doesn't react, just watches him with that same unflappable calm. "You should go," she says, crossing her arms. "Sounds like you've got bigger problems than me." He glares at her, his pride warring with his panic, then turns on his heel and storms out. But this isn't over, not for him. He's not done fighting, not yet. He needs a lifeline, and he's starting to realize there's only one place left to find it. Hours later, he's back. This time at Naomi's corporate headquarters, a towering building that dwarfs his own firm's modest offices. He's cleaned up, his suit pressed, his demeanor shifted from fury to desperation. He's let in after a tense wait, escorted by security to her executive suite. She's there, standing by the window, the city sprawling out beneath her like a kingdom she's conquered. She doesn't turn when he enters, just lets him stew in the silence. "Naomi," he says finally, his voice softer, almost pleading. "We need to talk." She glances over her shoulder, unimpressed. "I think we've said enough." He steps closer, hands outstretched. "No, listen, I messed up, I get that. I was an idiot back then and now. But we can fix this. We had something once." The words hang there, fragile and hollow, and she turns fully now, her eyes narrowing. "Fix this?" she repeats, her tone laced with disbelief. "You think there's a we here, after everything?" He presses on, desperate. "I'm not asking for us, I'm asking for a deal. Horizon, the firm, you've got the power. You could save it, save me. We could work something out, for old time's sake." She laughs, a sharp, incredulous sound that cuts through his plea. "Old time's sake? You mean the times you left me humiliated, scrambling to pick up the pieces? Those times?" He flinches, but doesn't back down. "I was wrong, I know that now, but I'm begging you. Don't let it all burn because of me." Naomi studies him, her expression unreadable, and for a moment, he thinks he's gotten through. Then she moves, slow and deliberate, crossing to the door and holding it open. "Yes, we did have something once," she says, her voice steady, resolute. "And now I have something better. Self-respect. Goodbye, Jonathan." He stares at her, the finality of it sinking in, and tries one last time. "Naomi, please." But she doesn't waver. "Goodbye," she repeats, firmer now, and shuts the door in his face. The click echoes, a full stop to their story. Or so it seems. Outside, Jonathan stands there, the weight of his defeat crushing him. His firm's collapsing, his marriage is in tatters. Vanessa hasn't answered his calls since she walked out last night, and his pride's in shreds. He'd come here thinking he could charm her, bargain with her, but she's untouchable, a force he can't bend. He slumps against the wall, his mind racing for a way out, but every path leads back to her. She's won, decisively, and he's got nothing left to play. Meanwhile, Naomi's back at her desk, the city humming below her. She feels the victory, sharp and sweet, but it's tempered by something else. Focus, anticipation. She picks up the investor's note again, rereading it. His future's yours to shape. Let's talk. She'd ignored it until now, but the game's shifting again. Who's this ally? What do they want? She dials a number, her voice crisp as she speaks. Kyla, set up a meeting. Tomorrow, noon. I want everything we've got on Jonathan's investors. Past, present, and anyone circling the wreckage. Kyla's quick on the uptake. You think there's more to this? Naomi smiles, a glint in her eye. There's always more. The day fades into night, and across town, Vanessa's not idle either. She's in a hotel suite, her wedding dress crumpled in a corner, her phone buzzing with unanswered messages from Jonathan. She's been crying, but her jaw's set now, her mind made up. She picks up her own phone, dialing a number she hasn't used in years. It's me, she says when the line connects, her voice tight but firm. We need to meet. He's finished, and I want in on whatever comes next. The voice on the other end chuckles, low and knowing. Thought you'd never ask. Naomi's car glides through the city later that night, the lights streaking past like stars. She's won the battle, delivered the final blow, but the war's not over. That note, Vanessa's silence, the whispers of a new alliance. It's all building to something bigger, something she can't quite see yet. She leans back, her mind sharp, ready for the next move. Because if there's one thing she knows, it's this. Power doesn't rest, and neither does she. The story's not done. Something's coming, fast and fierce, and she'll be waiting. The city pulses beyond Naomi's office windows, a restless sprawl of lights and shadows that stretches into the late afternoon. It's been days since she shut the door on Jonathan, days since his world began its final collapse, and the air feels different now, crisper, cleaner, like the aftermath of a storm. She's at her desk, a fortress of polished wood and glass, her blazer draped over the chair, her sleeves rolled up as she sifts through a stack of reports. The headlines have been relentless. Jonathan's firm imploding, investors fleeing, his name splashed across every business feed as a cautionary tale. She's not gloating, not outwardly, but there's a quiet satisfaction in the way she moves, a steadiness that comes from knowing she's won. Her phone buzzes, a steady rhythm against the desk, and she glances at it, expecting another update from Kyla or a follow-up on the investor meeting she held yesterday. Instead, it's a name she hasn't seen in a while. Damien. She pauses, her fingers hovering over the screen. Damien's a name from her past, not college like Jonathan, but later. A consultant she'd met years ago during a merger, back when she was still clawing her way up. He'd been different then, sharp, respectful, the kind of man who listened when she spoke instead of waiting for his turn. They'd stayed in touch loosely, a few messages here and there, but life had kept them on separate paths. Now his text glows on her screen. Heard about the wedding. You're unstoppable. Dinner tonight? My treat. She reads it twice, a faint smile tugging at her lips. It's not a grand gesture, not a plea, just an offer, simple and genuine. She sets the phone down, leaning back in her chair, letting the possibilities settle over her. For the first time in days, her mind drifts from strategy to something softer, something she hasn't let herself consider in years. Before she can reply, Kyla strides in, her tablet clutched like a weapon. It's official, she says, her voice buzzing with energy as she drops into the chair across from Naomi. Jonathan's company just filed for bankruptcy. Papers hit an hour ago, total meltdown. His father's out, the board's scrambling, and word is Vanessa's already lawyered up. Done and dusted. Naomi nods, her expression calm but her eyes sharp. Expected, she says, folding her hands on the desk. He built his house on quicksand. It was only a matter of time. Kyla leans forward, grinning. Yeah, but you gave it the push. That toast, pulling horizon. Chef's kiss. They're calling it the takedown of the decade online? Naomi's smile grows just a fraction. Good, let them talk. Keeps the vultures busy. Kyla's about to say more when Naomi's phone buzzes again. This time, a news alert. She picks it up, scanning the headline. Tech tycoon's empire crumbles amid X's revenge play. She skims the article, details of the filing, quotes from shell-shocked employees, a blurry photo of Jonathan leaving his office, head down. She sets it aside, her gaze drifting to the window. That's what happens, she says, her voice low, almost to herself, when you try to break a woman who was already unbreakable. Kyla catches it, tilting her head. You talking to me or him? Naomi glances back, her eyes glinting. Both, maybe. Doesn't matter, he's not listening anymore. The room settles into a comfortable quiet, the hum of the city filtering through the glass. Kyla stands, heading for the door, but pauses. You did it, you know, she says, her tone softer now. Not just the win, the way you walked through it. Untouchable. Naomi Dusno shows a flicker of warmth, a rare crack in her armor. Thanks, Kyla. Now go. Those contracts won't sign themselves. Kyla laughs, slipping out, and Naomi's alone again, the weight of her victory sinking in. She picks up her phone, thumb hovering over Damien's message. Her mind flashes back, his steady handshake at that merger, the way he'd asked her questions instead of assuming answers, the quiet respect in his voice. She types, quick and decisive. 8 o'clock. Pick a place with a view. She hits send before she can second-guess it, a spark of anticipation flaring in her chest. It's not a surrender, not a softening, just a step, a choice to let something new breathe amid the ashes of the old. The reply comes fast. Done. See you then. She sets the phone down, her fingers lingering on it, and lets herself imagine it. Dinner, a conversation, a man who sees her as she is, not as something to conquer or discard. But victory's never clean-cut, and Naomi knows it. The investor meeting yesterday still lingers in her mind. A gray-haired man named Ellis, sharp-eyed and cryptic, offering her a stake in a new venture tied to Jonathan's wreckage. You've got the reins now, he'd said, his voice gravelly with intent. His loss can be your gain, bigger than horizon. Think it over. She hadn't committed, not yet, but the possibility hums in the background, a thread she hasn't pulled. And then there's Vanessa. Rumors swirling that she's not just leaving Jonathan, but plotting something, her silence too deliberate to be grief alone. Naomi's not worried. Not exactly, but she's watchful. Power draws players, and she's the center of the board now. She stands, crossing to the window, the city sprawling out like a map she's redrawn. Jonathan's gone. Bankrupt, broken, a ghost of the man who tried to bury her. She's not just survived him. She's soared past him, her empire stronger, her name louder. The weight of that settles over her, fierce and freeing, and she lets herself feel it fully. No regrets, no doubts, just the certainty of who she's become. Her phone buzzes once more, Damien confirming the spot, and she smiles, a real one this time, small but bright. Victory's hers, undeniable, but the game's not over. There's more ahead, love maybe, or another fight, and she's ready for it all. Hey, you, she says, turning from the window, her voice carrying into the empty room like a promise to herself. You did this, and you're just getting started. She grabs her blazer, slinging it over her shoulder, and heads for the door, the click of her heels a steady beat against the floor. The city waits, and so does her future, wide open, hers to shape. And now, to you watching, would you have handled this differently? Played it safer, struck harder, walked away? Tell me in the comments below and please subscribe for more stories like this.